I always tell people Atlanta black, but Georgia white as hell. Two different things. Don't confuse Georgia with Atlanta.
A poet from my city once said, if you don't like where I stay, then fly away. But we all know that ain't about to happen. I mean, folk come here to party for a weekend and slick don't want to go home. How could you? I'm talking about growing up black in a city of black excellence. And we the birthplace of trap music. We the pulse of the culture. I mean, what other city you know ran by a woman named Keisha? I want to welcome y'all to Atlanta.
I'm light-skinned Keisha, AKA Big Bang Bisha. I was born in Decatur, Georgia.
All right, my name is Andre Dickens. I am from Adamsville, the far west part of Atlanta, Georgia, and glad to have you here.
My name is Nsé Ufad, and I'm from the South Side, Zone 3. So I went to Benjamin Elijah Mays High School, the illustrious Benjamin Elijah Mays, which is on the west side, but I grew up on the south side of Atlanta.
I'm Miss Lawrence. I'm from the south side of Atlanta, East Point. I went to Tri-Cities High School, School of Performing Arts. It just so happened that Tri-Cities was in East Point, and I grew up in East Point, so that's the school my mama said you're going to.
Hi, my name is Carmen Watkins. I am a 2012 graduate of the Clark Atlanta University.
My name is Will Watkins. I am a native of Atlanta, Georgia, born at Georgia Baptist Hospital, June 11, 1987, and I'm the proud husband of this beautiful lady right here.
I'm Keisha Lance Bottoms, Mayor of Atlanta, from the west side of Atlanta, from Collier Heights to Cascade.
I'm Ryan Wilson. I grew up on the north side of town. I graduated from Walker High School in Marietta, Georgia.
Take one pickup. No. When be saying they from here, where they from? Cause we gotta get this Atlanta straight. Inner circle, the inner city of Atlanta. To be from Atlanta, you have to be from a certain circumference of the city. You know what I'm saying? Like, the north side is not Atlanta. That is the north side. That is Gwinnett. That is Marietta, Georgia. You know what I'm saying? It's that.
I'm very rigid about the borders of Atlanta. So Decatur, not Atlanta. Riverdale, not Atlanta. Marietta and Lawrenceville, shout out to the Migos, not Atlanta, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's simple. Like I feel like Atlanta's broken up into 4 parts. You got the north side, you got the south side, you got east side, and you got west side. And that's just that, period. Atlanta is everything. Atlanta is the culture. Atlanta is what people follow these days. Atlanta is where people want to be. Atlanta is where people want to be from, okay? Period. Like, what? Atlanta's everything.
I mean, growing up black in Atlanta is black, so it was kind of like just growing up normal, for real, you know. I think it's a very unique place to be from here, grow up here, and also see your people excel here on every different level.
I think the thing that I love about growing up black in Atlanta is the diversity of blackness.
Growing up here, I knew that Atlanta was special because my mayor was black, my fire chief, police chief, school superintendent, streets were named after black people. My school was named after black people. Everywhere I went.
The thing that's amazing about Atlanta is it's a big city that still feels like a neighborhood. So you can go anywhere in Atlanta and find examples of people that are doing like amazing things at every corner. And so I never doubted what I could become here because there were people around that showed me that it was all possible.
Growing up black in Atlanta it's been amazing. It's been amazing, it's been very freeing. I feel a level of protection because it is a black city, and a lot of our liberation and our freedom has been fueled by our civil rights leaders that come directly from the city. So Atlanta is great on many levels.
So for me, my family came to Atlanta over 100 years ago. So I consider that old Atlanta. But I've heard people say, oh, I came for the Olympics in '96. I'm old Atlanta. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah, old Atlanta was very close-knit. I mean, you know, it was a smaller town, still very country, you know, city folk that live in the South, but it's still a metropolitan city.
I will say the new Atlanta, it's progressed a lot. I mean, our city is beautiful. You know, it's a lot of black businesses here that are flourishing and doing really well. That's a part of the new Atlanta. But then there's that kind of darker side that I don't really like. Because we grew at an alarming rate, the city, gentrification really, it really impacted the black culture in not the best way.
Look, there are old Atlanta things that I think we have to protect. There have been people in the communities for a long time that have been making Atlanta what it is. They deserve the credit for what this city is now, right? But for the folks that are new to the city, welcome, right? I think it's a new opportunity for us to talk about what we want the future of the city to look like with all of us together. And I do think New Atlanta is starting to really embrace the values that old Atlanta has had, which has made the city successful. So as long as we do that, I think we're good.
So growing up in Atlanta, shaking the hands of the mayor when I was a young boy inspired me to want to be involved in politics. I'm an at-large city council member, post 3 at-large, which means I was elected citywide by the whole city, and I represent everywhere from Bankhead to Buckhead, as they say, the north of the city, the south of the city, and everything in between. And I love that position. I ran 7.5 years ago and ran against an incumbent that had been here for 12 years. And I like being citywide because I get to see how to take best practices from things that are going well on one part of the city and try to mimic it or improve upon it in another side of the city. And to be able to know the whole city and have that, you know, ability to talk to folks and share and grow the city that way. So City Council makes the laws and we provide the opportunities for the mayor's team to run the city.
The question I had to ask myself when I was contemplating whether or not I should run for City Council, what would you do if you weren't afraid to fail? That's my Oprah-esque question. I remember hearing Oprah Winfrey ask that one day on her show. And as women, we often stop ourselves. What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't know enough? What if I don't have enough? But the reality is we're leading. We lead every day. We lead in our families. We're leading in our churches, our sororities, our neighborhoods. We just don't always call it leadership. We call it doing what we have to do. But that's what leadership is all about. I ran for City Council, served for 8 years. I knew when I was sworn into my second term on council that it was either time to run for mayor or it was time to pass the baton to someone else. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And one day, literally in church, I got the answer that I should run for mayor. It was all about just wanting to make sure that I could lead this city in the way that people like Ambassador Young and Maynard Jackson and so many other mayors had led this city, this great example and this investment in our communities and especially our children. So I'm honored to be the first mayor, and many mayors were actually born in Atlanta. I'm actually the first African-American mayor that was born in Atlanta.
You know, I think Atlanta's always been a city that's been very, you know, stand up, show up. But today, you know, with what Atlanta, and I'm gonna say Atlanta, just did to turn Georgia blue, to level the playing field in the Senate. You know, the activism in Atlanta is lit. And then what they say is lit. It's lit. A lot of the people, you know, they like to be hard on Atlanta because, you know, Atlanta wasn't really fully closed during the pandemic or when the pandemic first hit. But what I'm proud of is that we didn't let it go in vain. During a pandemic, you know, we turned out in record numbers in Atlanta, Fulton County, DeKalb County, Clayton County, you name it, to turn this thing blue. And that's never been done.
Black voters did save the democracy. The world was waiting on us to do this. Nobody wanted Trump to get reelected, and we, Georgia, played a major role in that. We stepped up big, the first time in a very long time that Georgia voted Democratic in the presidential election, and then to double down on that in the senatorial election, we got not one but two senators coming out of this race. All eyes were on us and we stepped up big.
I knew it could happen, but to actually see it happen and to work to have it happen was pretty incredible. I remember the conversations with President Biden when I was being vetted for vice president. And I said, hey, I'm like, you put me on the ticket. I'm telling you, we can win Georgia. So clearly he didn't need me on the ticket to win Georgia. You know, it was just good to have all eyes on this state because we've been trending this way for a really long time. And for people to actually see the power that they had just simply by showing up to vote and doing it. So for all of the organizations and all of the folk who did the work, at the end of the day, the voters showed up.
So the New Georgia Project, started by the Queen leader, Stacey Abrams. Originally, when they launched, the idea was to register a whole bunch of Black people for the Affordable Care Act. That there are tens of thousands of Black Georgians, and Georgians of color, period, poor people, working folks, who've been working 10, 20, 30, 40 years and never had health insurance, never had employer-provided health insurance. And here was this opportunity provided by the federal government to have health insurance. And Stacey Abrams, you know, had a vision, like, we don't have enough power. We don't have the power inside the legislature to force them to do what the people of Georgia want. The polling says it, everybody wants this. Georgians are dying. We need the power to hire these jokers and fire them when they fall out of line. And that's when they shifted the focus to large-scale voter registration. And that's when I became the ED and eventually the CEO of the New Georgia Project. To date, we've registered over 500,000 young people and Black folks and Latinos and Asian Americans in all 159 of Georgia's counties. And I think that we have changed Georgia's politics, Southern politics, American politics for a generation. So the New Georgia Project not only helped save democracy, but we also helped elect leaders who take science seriously, who are gonna help with the logistics of getting vaccines out to as many people as possible, and are gonna help us jumpstart and restart the American economy.
Atlanta, let me just be clear, Atlanta is Black gay Mecca, okay? The scene is good. The scene is good. The scene could be better though. The Black gay scene could be better. I feel like we could have a lot more, and we're getting there. So this idea of, I guess, kind of broadening our narrative about Black Atlanta started a long, long, long time ago. Keisha Lance Bottoms came along and was the first ever to put together an LGBTQ advisory board. It means a lot to know that there is a Black woman who cares enough and respects humanity enough to know that every voice should be heard, every voice should count, and everyone should offer something. Regardless of gender backgrounds and gender lines, we are all one. It makes me very hopeful about where Black gay people and Black queer people where we exist in Atlanta, the equity we'll have in Atlanta.
What was interesting about the creation of the LGBTQ Advisory Board is that Atlanta is known as this diverse city. It's known for being a welcoming and open city. But what I've learned when I was out campaigning for Ms. Lawrence and others is that African Americans in the LGBTQ community didn't always feel like they were a part of the conversation. That even in Atlanta, they felt as if they always didn't have a seat at the table. So we created this advisory board because we wanted everybody to be able to have a seat at the table. So that's why you see the diversity of that board and then allowing them to share with us where we needed to go as a city and what more we needed to do.
To know that I'm in a city that is run by someone who believes in truly one Atlanta, including Black, gay, and Black straight people, it's very powerful. It's meaningful, you know? It's progressive.
I think this is a very important time. I mean, we're having a lot of conversations about HBCUs now, which is good, right? As Black people, we are used to being in spaces where we're tolerated but not celebrated. And so to have an entire institution dedicated to educating Black minds and celebrating those minds, it's essential to make sure that that option is there.
If I had to describe the AUC, I would say culture, woke, you know, all the things that we hear about today, it's always been here. It's part of the embedded history of HBCUs, Clark Atlanta, the AUC, all of that.
Yeah, so you have Morehouse across the gates, you have Spelman College, you have Clark Atlanta, there's no AUC without CAU, you have still the history of Morris Brown. When I think about the AUC, I think about the word celebrated. Like as soon as I walked on this campus, whether it was the induction ceremony or the Olive Branch experience, I was celebrated and welcomed here from the moment I stepped on this campus. And you don't get to see like Black and brown people that look like you and everybody's rooting for each other to do well. You know, we talk about education, which is second to none here, but you also get that sense of family that you don't get everywhere. I actually had relationships with my professors, like I knew them by name. They would reach out to me, contact me, keep me on track, keep me focused. It was a good family vibe, and you don't always get that at a four-year institution.
Yeah, so it's interesting, going to Georgia Tech, 18 months before I got to Georgia Tech, I didn't know where Georgia Tech was in the world. But I had never in my life studied with white people. I went to all Black elementary, all Black middle school, all Black high school, and they were all excellent. They all trained me to be able to go on to be a chemical engineer. But when I got to Georgia Tech, I literally had never been in a classroom with white folks or Asians or anybody. And so that was an interesting experience, but you know, we got through it, we stick together.
Georgia Tech gave me an opportunity to, you know, sharpen my analysis about race and racism and who were allies and what it means to be an ally and who wasn't. Being at Georgia Tech, you know, helped me, you know, differentiate between growing up in Atlanta and growing up in Georgia, which is its own distinction.
Atlanta's been a place for Black entrepreneurs going back generations. I know that personally from my family story. My family came from the cotton fields in East Georgia in a horse and buggy. And my family is full of entrepreneurs. They came here looking for opportunity, put their roots down on the west side of Atlanta, Vine City, English Avenue. My grandfather used to hire people in the neighborhood. It's just always been this place that you could dream and that it could become a reality.
So this is funny where life takes you. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like my parents are entrepreneurs. I saw that life. It was not for me. I wanted to be an attorney. That to me was the way that I was going to help people and ultimately like what I thought was the best way to just live my life. I'm at this law firm and I didn't enjoy any part of the experience. But what was going on that summer was the Trayvon Martin case. And so I'm watching this case really like everybody that summer, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it. When George Zimmerman was acquitted of Trayvon Martin's murder, though, I got an email from some friends. I've been doing a lot of community organizing work in DC. And so their email to me was, what are we going to do? And I responded back with the idea to build TGS. So the Gathering Spot is a private membership club rooted in community and culture. The best way to understand what we're doing here is we're bringing people together. Youngest member is 21, the oldest is 88. You'll find people from every industry that are here in the club. And through programming and through dining and through just overall experience, we connect people. And that has always been what we thought was going to be our contribution to our community, trying to figure out how to create a context for folks just to know one another better. So we always knew, because we're in the community business, that we could build community really anywhere. We wanted to be in Atlanta because this is the only city that I know of where you have some of the biggest companies in the world sitting next to a network of colleges and universities, sitting next to a legit startup ecosystem, sitting next to like the cultural capital of the world. And look, to be able to raise millions of dollars to have the city embrace a new business, I don't think that happens many other places. That's a very Atlanta thing. We will forever be indebted to thousands of people at this point. We're the largest city club in Atlanta, and that's happened in 5 years. It's only in cities like this where folks will say, you know what, not only am I going to support you, like I'm going to make sure other people support you, and we're gonna make this thing actually be successful. There are a lot of examples of that across Atlanta at this point. And so this city is better positioned to produce more Black entrepreneurs moving forward because we have a way of moving down here, a way of supporting one another that just, it gives us an advantage over other places that are more competitive. We're all about collaboration here first.
We hustlers by nature as Black folks, you know what I'm saying? Like, we come from a place, especially from the South, where you have to figure it out. We had to start finding our own ways to build our communities and be prosperous in the process. So at the end of the day, like, you know, gonna hustle. And in the process, you know what I'm saying? You have the birth of Black entrepreneurship through the struggles and the hustle. You know, we find ways, we make ways. Since the 80s is a label, management, and publishing company. Since the 80s was brought about because I actually, you know, had been managing artists at the time. Started with Mac Miller, started with Wiz, basically doing a lot of marketing and promo for them when I was in Pittsburgh. When I moved to Pittsburgh, I actually started taking music super seriously because it was just like I had to figure out what I was gonna do when I got out. So I started studying Diddy, started looking at Jimmy Iovine, a lot of different people that were like in the game that had done it before. Berry Gordy was definitely one of my super inspirations. I just started studying and then just started applying. So eventually I ended up just transitioning into it. Like, it was one of those things where you just had to find your way in. Since the 80s became something that we ended up doing later just because it was a management company, but we felt like, how did we get bigger? How did we go? And how do we brand something globally and what did it mean to us? So, you know, for me, since the 80s was just, it's really an ode to what came before us.
I love Atlanta music. I mean, we literally right now own the music scene. The producers, the artists, even some of the labels that are here in Atlanta. The music videos are being shot here. It is fun to watch us continue to grow from being a diehard Outkast fan and Goody Mob and all of that to now where everybody from 2 Chainz and Future and the mid-generation of T.I., Jeezy, Killer Mike, like, these are homeboys. You see these guys walking up and down the street now, going to events, they're owning businesses, they're starting organizations and things that help the people.
Disclaimer, this might offend my political connects, but my favorite Atlanta artist is Young Dro. Like, he's so funny. His music is so fun. Like, Shoulder Lean is still my go-to. Like, I'm about to get fresh as hell and go to the club.
I used to love like booty shake music. I was always that little queen, honey. somewhat dancing, percolating, hitting the split somewhere. So I always loved like Kilo Ali, and I loved Shawty Lo, Lord rest his soul, Shawty Lo.
They know.
Trap music, Gucci Mane, Young Jeezy, like, you know, trap music, that's the sound. And, you know, when Migos came in the game, they switched it up and they made their own sound. So I feel like, but that's still like, you know, that's still a part of Atlanta's culture, you know what I'm saying? And they had a wave to where like everybody was copying off of their sound.
21 is one of the most smartest people on the planet, for real, for real. Like when I first met him, in the process of his deals and trying to do certain things, like bro is hella smart. Very intelligent, very emotionally connected to understanding when it's time to do something, when it's not time to do something. Even smart enough to understand the balance between the two. He's probably one of my most favorite people, just as always gonna be himself. Like, super well-balanced human being and intelligent to understand every situation. I think he need more credit for his transgression and his progression.
Mulatto. So into her music right now, like definitely needing to get into my like feminine bag, to reach into my feminine power. The work that I do, I work in a very male-dominated field, and so the idea of her schemes to take back power, to take control, super motivational.
Let's not get it twisted. The movement of female rappers is just like becoming present, like within the last year or two. And they hard too.
Well, I've always been into music, even when I was younger. As far as when I started rapping, I would play around and I put out like some songs and stuff. And I didn't know if it was going to be like, I didn't know it was going to be make me hear now. I won't even let a broke give me some. But when I put them out, a lot of people, I got really good responses on it. So then they like, you know, you need to keep on doing it because people like my sound. From then on, it just took off, and I found myself being in the studio all the time. It's crazy too because I would never think that I was gonna be able to like, you know, write music either, because I used to be like, dang, that's crazy how people come up with stuff off the top of their head, but it's like, that's all I do all day. And it's just, you know, yeah. Period, it be popping, like.
I mean, name me a city that has a broader, more diverse, a deeper bench of like high quality, high performing musicians. I'll wait.
You know, I knew at an early age, going all the way back to nursery school, elementary school, middle school, of course high school, that I had a strong passion for the arts, acting, singing, dancing, you name it. I shied away from it in high school. Although I was a part of the drama and dance and chorus music departments in high school, I shied away from it, and I was a bit rebellious out of, you know, just various personal insecurities as it relates to how I thought the world or society would be ready for me as an artist in the world, being a person who honors their gender fluidity. So, you know, I knew early that I would be a part of the arts in some way. I just didn't think that, you know, I would be here.
Black Hollywood is a real thing in Atlanta. Everybody is a celebrity in Atlanta. No, seriously, you got everything in here, whether it's A-listers, B-listers, C-listers, it's everybody.
Black Hollywood, if you go to Tyler Perry Studios, it is Hollywood. This beautiful intersection of culture and entertainment and even politics. The DNC held a debate at Tyler Perry Studios, and then in true Atlanta style, Tyler Perry allowed us to have an after party in the White House at Tyler Perry Studios.
Everything is a show. Everything is an episode. The club is an episode. Going to eat is an episode. I mean, we as black people, we just very boastful human beings. Like, we just very like bright, outgoing people. Like, we're rich in resources. We're rich in spirit. We're rich in culture. We're spiritual people. So, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, like, that's so you in Atlanta, you spiritual. Like, this I don't know, I would say on nig. And here.
I don't care. Nobody's touching Atlanta clubs. It's just a vibe, like it's a lifestyle. Like you're not gonna go nowhere else and see, first of all, even down to the music that we play down here. Like the DJs, they play the best music. Not to mention like the strip clubs, you're not seeing our dancers, and on top of that, y'all not touching our food. Like on a Monday night, you know you can go to Allure or you can go to Magic City Monday and you gonna get the, you know what I'm saying, the steak with the rice. Like, you know what I'm saying? While you got a fat booty bitch in there butt naked stripping and you know you got ones flying in the air, everybody just, it's a vibe. Like you're not gonna get that, you know what I'm saying? You can have, you know, 10-piece mild, lemon pepper, sprinkle, extra crispy, french fries, ranch on the side with a peach drink. Like you're not getting that nowhere else except for Atlanta.
I would like my legacy to be that I cared so much about this city that raised me that I turned around and served it so that others have the opportunities of a lifetime to have the best quality of life they can ever have, right here.
I would like for people to know when my time is up and when it's over, which hopefully, and I know will be a very long time from now, is that I came and I met the world on my own terms. But what I've learned, and I want people to know, is that wherever you are weak, you are 10 times stronger and more mighty. If you honor what you really feel inside, and you share it, and you share your gift, it is your gifts that will make the room for you. And wherever you feel weak, your years of weakness will be restored and you will have plenty to eat.
I want people to remember me as like original, for sure. I love myself and I start a lot of trends. I want people to know that I was always a vibe too. Like, I'm just a very fun person. I'm the life of the party, like, period.
I would like for my legacy to be that I loved hard, that I laughed hard, that I fought hard, that I did everything I could with everything I had to leave people and places better than they were when I found them.
I've always thought about my legacy in the facet of philanthropy.
Same, we're both really big on nonprofit work, on giving back, and so that's my goal, ultimately, is to leave something for my children to do as well. So if we branch out and we start something here, I want it to be generational and something that my kids can continue to carry on in the city.
Real great leaders, you know, inspire others and leave something that others can continue to keep building upon. That's a legacy at the end of the day, and that's a great leader. So I think mine is deeply rooted into that.
There's an Outkast line where they say, I want people to remember essentially like what we stood for, right? And that's the thing that when this is all said and done, that's what I want people to remember, what we stood for, which was about community, which is about being in radical support of one another, that is about having real pride and just being Black.
I want Atlanta to be better than I found it. And it's so much work to be done. So we've created this vision of one Atlanta, this place where no matter where you're born, no matter the zip code, no matter what your family situation is, that we're leaving our kids and our communities with the tools they need to succeed. So that's what I want to be known as. I want people to remember me as the mayor who cared about the least of these in our city, and I made our city better. So it's so much work to be done, but it's just a great foundation that I have to build upon, and history will decide what that looks like.
Atlanta is Black excellence. Atlanta is culture. Atlanta is pride. Atlanta is family. Atlanta is rooted. Atlanta is tough. Atlanta grinds, man, every day.
Atlanta is history. Atlanta is a vibe. Atlanta is lit. Atlanta is comprised of change makers, visionaries.
Risk takers.
Yeah, history makers.
Hit makers.
Atlanta is home.